should maybe, like, hold on. Give me a second, like, set some things up. There we go. Alright. Alright, we're good. That was kind of weird. Anyways. Disrupt. This channel is pretty cool. I recently discovered them while on my Xbox just watching things. So we're just gonna watch some other videos, because I've only now just discovered.
A storm is brewing in South Dakota.
Sorry to get that. Southwest 1772, right.
And it's moving swiftly into Minnesota, bringing with it rain, hail, thunder, and wind. A mass exodus is taking place from one social media website to another. But there's still some survivors left behind. Album shares, party pictures. This one doesn't look any different. The user is sent to a web page, and it's disguised in a coat that makes it look normal. But the last two letters reveal its true identity. They're prompted to install a video player update. This unsuspecting computer is now a zombie, connected to a mesh of other half-dead machines spread all throughout the planet. A botnet known simply as
You are watching Disrupt.
Congratulations, you won. Congratulations, you won. Congratulations.
Yes.
an antivirus company announces a discovery. Typically, URLs are hosted on a single web server through a single internet protocol address. If one is found to be malicious, it's fairly easy to chop it down from the root by blocking the IP. But these URLs are utilizing a tactic known as fast flux. In a fast flux network, the IP address of the domain name is constantly switched out, making it near impossible to find the core of the infection. Perfect for the first stage of self-propagation over the dates. In this time period, we see variants appearing that are created from the original MySpace exploit. Targets Skype. Targets Twitter. makes its way onto the Macintosh ecosystem. It spreads not only through social media messages, but right under our noses. An ordinary website. You can download files from here. Kubeface covers the otherwise safe download button with an HTML iframe. This sends a PDF file to the user that, when opened, scans the computer. It's searching for a file transfer protocol. If found, it will send out a message to the other bots, who will subsequently use the exploited username and password to make a new home within its victim. With each newly infected host, the botnet grows larger, creating a decentralized, untraceable network that churns left, churns right, goes up, and goes down on the whim of whoever has the steering wheel.
Davey, I'm in the newsroom with how to protect your computer. Dave?
Yeah, Ron, it's really scary how easily it can infect your computer. In fact, we had a computer expert show us.
It's 1997, and the most popular website in the world is. More than 17 million people use the site every month to explore a new frontier known as the internet. But at 7 p.m. on Monday, December 8th, Yahoo is hijacked. Confronts anyone who opens the browser. The message reveals that the computer of every single person who's visited Yahoo in the past month has been infected with a worm. And on Christmas Day, in less than 3 weeks, the bomb will detonate and destroy millions of contaminated computer systems. That is, unless the hijackers' one demand is met. Anger erupts, and over the following days, protests break out on the streets across the United States. They set up camp outside federal courthouses, and from New York to California, people call into radio stations to cry out the phrase in real life and in video games.
Do you have anything else to say?
Yeah. Free Kevin!
Oh.
It's now just 1 week until Christmas, and most are asking, he hoists himself up and looks through the bars on his windows. But Kevin isn't a terrorist. He isn't a mafia boss, and he's not here because he wiretapped the NSA or blackmailed FBI agents. Authorities say he poses an even greater danger. Because with a single phone call, they say, he can dial into the NORAD and access the nuclear arsenal of the United States of America.
The event of nuclear weapons changed the course of the world.
Kevin might only be an innocent prankster, or Kevin could be the world's most dangerous cyber terrorist, a man who has North America at his fingertips. To free or not to free? That is the question.
Cheesy. It's cheesy.
This is a Windows registry key. And this is that same Windows registry key modified by Kubeface. When a computer wants to connect to a website, it goes through a domain management system, or DNS. This is typically provided by an internet service provider. A VPN circumvents this by building its own bridge that handles the traffic toward whatever website the user types in. Kubeface is doing something similar, but instead of directing traffic to the website in its true form, it repaints road signs, changes GPS directions, and guides the user to wherever it pleases. YouTube, Wikipedia, PayPal, all resolve to IP addresses employed by the Command and Control Center. This is how the Cube makes its money. Right there. When that user clicked the link, CubeFace instantly shot his browser through a number of affiliate advertising networks.
And the cool thing about this person, the cool thing about them is the way they explain everything, just the way everything just kind of, just unfolds as this thing is going on. I watched a video of theirs earlier today, and the way they got into this whole explanation, something happened, which then in turn led to a whole big conspiracy going on. It's just crazy the way this person explains things. And yes, I understand I'm being a little quiet. It's it's almost 1 a.m., so I don't really have a choice here.
Instead of the machine sending HTTP GET to Google, as it normally does, an infected machine sends HTTP GET to CubeFace, who responds with a list of affiliated links. It's only after receiving those links that the machine correctly sends HTTP GET to Google, who then returns with the legit results. The first result corresponds to the first affiliate link, and when clicked, for just a brief moment, an advertisement. After that process, the used affiliate link is scrubbed, and a new one takes its place. These systems may offer $2 per 1,000 users that click the affiliate link. Multiply that by hundreds of thousands of infected bots across the planet, clicking links all day, and at this point, CubeFace's Command and Control Center is passively pulling in The victim may now notice that something feels off. Their loading times are slower. Toolbars keep appearing out of nowhere. And just in time, a helping hand is offered. Similar to the Google search, a response is sent to Cube's Command and Control Center. It responds with a list of antivirus software downloads, picks one, and displays it on the desktop. After the user pays, their PC remains infected, and Command and Control gets a paycheck. We live in a world of bots. But where do these soulless beings come from? Alan Turing, a 20th century mathematician, creates the Turing test. In the experiment, a human has a text-based conversation with a computer and another human. If he can't tell who is the computer and who is the human, then the computer has passed the test. Now we've flipped this. Instead of us, the human telling computers apart from humans, computer needs to figure out who's you and who's me and who is its robotic kin.
So you are a robot?
No, my name is Cliverbert.
Yes, you are a robot and your name is Cliverbert.
I am a robot.
Yes, I know.
Together we are robots.
I'm not a robot. I'm a unicorn.
In the beginning, CubeFace uses a small portion of manually created accounts to spread initially. But now, as the infrastructure grows, it needs a way to create thousands of fake accounts to ensnarl thousands of more victims. Completely automated public Turing test to tell computers and humans apart. Normally, CAPTCHA would be a brick wall for an amateur bot program, but CubeFace has found a clever workaround. First, it sends the following command to Facebook. The login and password are encoded via an encrypted scheme that involves reading the letters, their corresponding AC values, and comparing that to a successive string of numbers from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to... Encrypted becomes unencrypted. new account information is sent to the social media site. The social media site responds with another packet containing a blank bio, birthday, favorite books, activities. Coob autofills this with randomly generated info that feels just realistic enough. Next, the site will ask for CAPTCHA. To circumvent this, the CAPTCHA puzzle is mirrored to the desktop of any individual in its bot army. Two things happen. Their screen is unlocked, and the CAPTCHA for the new minion is complete. Coobface deploys this scheme a number of times. Millions of friend requests are sent across Facebook, and the army grows ever larger. Cyber investigators uncover an irregularity. The connection of interest is located on servers hosted by Coriax in the UK. The data flowing in and out of one of these servers matches observed data by Coobface. The command and control centers are wiped out, and the bots are left wandering without direction. Hundreds of new command and control centers appear, which ushers in Coobface's peak with an estimated 600,000 infected machines. The unraveling of Coobface is delivered through the very same websites it previously exploited. An Apache HTTP client is used to control files to and from a web server. For the most part, it can be functioned anonymously, unless a specific option is left untouched. This option will drop breadcrumbs that display to any visitor what type of files are being transferred to and from the botnet on the daily. This photo's metadata shows it was taken with an iPhone on September 15, 2009. This is a daily backup of the Coobface command and control software. Inside, an IP stands out. This is programmed to automatically send a daily SMS update to 5 numbers. Updates that show exactly how much profit the network is pulling in. The numbers are searched. One is found. An online marketplace for vehicle sales. License plate in full view. Another market selling sphinxes. A name is registered on a number of websites. The same BMW is found on Flickr, also the cat. One of the found email addresses on his social media page points to a corporate email called Mobsoft. The website is defunct, but the company details list in Anton K. Job listings. The numbers on it both match the PHP found in Coob. Their names are cross-referenced with their respective social media accounts. And here, they posted their vacation pictures publicly. Facebook doxes their full names and pictures. They are dubbed Alibaba and 4. And now, in a rather anticlimactic peak, the Coobface command and control centers simply go offline.
That's strange.
From that point on to our current day and age, Coobface's original command and control center has never been reactivated. Alibaba and 4 are off the grid. And the zombie army remains dormant.
Got him! Got him!
To everyone in chat, take this as a moment to get anything you need, bathroom break, anything, snack, water, whatever. The time is right here, it's just behind the share button. Just go ahead, I'll let you do whatever.
Good evening, citizens of the Metaverse, and welcome to the Electronic Simulation Showcase show. Today we're looking at the sports car of at-home virtual reality hardware, the Roto Chair. This gaming chair is specially designed to increase immersion in your favorite VR simulations. Plug in your HMD cables into the Grade A cable management system. When you turn your head in-game, the motorized chair will turn your entire body a full 360 degrees. The Roto is equipped with double rumble motors on the bottom and back sides, meaning every explosion, every windstorm will feel like you're actually there. Intense is the name of the game when you're kicking back and watching a film, flying through the vast cosmos, or shooting your way to victory. With full padding, it's like you're sitting on an immersive cloud, ready to reach the depths of the metaphysical simulational virtual transconfigurational unrealities. The Roto Chair, the world's first interactive VR chair.
Okay, Chad, I hope you got whatever you needed. We're gonna continue on with the...
I joined a bunch of phone freakers who are gathering for a party. Something like 24 people show up, each one almost as much of a nerd as the worst of a ham radio enthusiast. The conversation inevitably gets around to one of my favorite targets, Cosmos, the Pacific telephone mission system that could bestow so much power on any freaker who could access it. As we started talking, I realized the building that houses Cosmos is nearby. The guard is a young guy. I say, "Hey, how you doing? We're out late, I work here, I wanted to show my friends where I work." He says, "Sure, just sign in." Doesn't even ask for an ID. Smooth. We've been calling departments and analyzing phone company operations for so long that we know exactly where the Cosmos employees work. Room 108. A folder on the wall holds up sheets of paper listing dial-up numbers for every wire center in Southern California. Armed with this list and login credentials, I'd have the ability to control any phone line in Pacific Telephone's Southern California service area.
Hello.
I can't believe our luck. We should have left then. But I spot a set of Cosmos manuals and the temptation is irresistible. I tell the guys, let's take the manuals to a copy shop, run off a copy for each of us, then return the manuals before people start coming back to work in the morning. It was the most stupid decision of my early life. We drive around looking for a copy shop but can't find one. It's 2 a.m. So I take the manuals home with me. But I have a bad feeling about them. So I throw it all in some trash bags and give them to my accomplice. Tell him to throw them away or something.
An unknown teenager has hacked a new network, known as NORAD. It's an organization that provides aerospace warning and protection for North America, and this kid infiltrated the system just to have a look around. The move is so bold that it inspires the film War Games.
A game? Or is it real?
Journalist John Markoff gets in touch with Kevin. He wants him to be part of his new book on hackers, named Cyberpunk. He's gained a reputation as a master of social engineering. It's the art of deceiving people into sharing valuable and confidential information for fraudulent purposes. But he's not interested in the money on offer. He wants to maintain a low profile, so he refuses to be part of the book, much to the displeasure of John Markoff. On a hot summer's day in LA, Kevin pulls out of the Stephen S. Wise Temple, where he works as a receptionist. In his rearview mirror, he thinks he sees a group of 3 men following him in a Ford Crown Victoria. He pulls a U-turn, and sure enough, they do the same. Kevin speeds down the I-405, and the car races after him. Suddenly, one of the men places a cop car flasher on the roof of the car, and now the sirens are crying out. Kevin pulls over. The officers rush up. They scream. Kevin is dragged out, handcuffed. His car is ransacked, but there's no signs of any bomb.
You're not gonna find it!
He's hauled to the station. The officers don't find a logic bomb, but they know about a crime Kevin committed. A friend told the police everything. He's sentenced to 12 months in prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. He sits in the courtroom, betrayed and alone. His attorneys plead with a judge that his hacking is an addiction rather than criminal behavior. They say the young man needs help, not a prison cell. Kevin rises and pleads his case to the judge. By now, he's a veteran in deception. The judge agrees and orders that Kevin serve his sentence in a halfway house for those with compulsive disorders. Kevin laughs as he's listening to the ruling. He was arrested for tricking his way into a computer system, and now he deceives the judge into thinking that he's the victim of his own crimes. It's a few weeks until supervised release ends, and the demon on his shoulder is whispering. He starts learning about Pacific Bell, a telephone company based in California. An idea appears. If he gets caught, he'll be sent to jail, but if he doesn't, then he'd have fooled the authorities right under their noses. No! Soon, he has all the passwords and credentials he needs to take control of the company's voicemails. Kevin is on the run for 2 years. He loses 100 pounds. When he learns that how a criminal walks is the #1 way they're recognized, he puts pebbles in his shoes to change his stride. He uses over a dozen different names. His favorite is Eric Wise. He begins a crime spree that infiltrates the world's biggest companies, Nokia. The companies say the damage from the hacks totals. Kevin sips his coffee as he reads the paper, and suddenly, a chill passes down his spine. FBI agents take their positions outside the house in California. They see their target sitting inside. Burst in and draw their weapons, and the man denies that he's Kevin Mitnick. He's a Middle Eastern immigrant, doesn't even own a computer. More than 2,000 kilometers away in Seattle, Kevin throws his paper to the ground, his name emblazoned on the front page of the New York Times. Kevin is adamant the stories in the articles are lies. He never hacked into NORAD or wiretapped the NSA. But if you believe Kevin, then you shouldn't trust anything you've heard so far about Kevin. He takes on mythical status overnight. The little-known prankster is now public enemy #1 of cyberspace. Kevin walks the streets of Seattle in a daze. Many of the passing faces on the sidewalk seem to be staring straight back at him. He hears the faint sound of a helicopter in the sky, feels his heart beginning to thump. No one seems to notice the helicopter, but they do notice Kevin. He hurries into the courtyard of an apartment complex and uses the tall trees as cover, peering through the leaves. Kevin tosses a package into the bushes and bursts into a full-on sprint. He gets away. But from what? One of America's top cybersecurity experts is finalizing plans to leave for a ski vacation the next day. And suddenly, his own computer is hacked. His phone rings.
Your security technique will be defeated. Your technique is no good.
To someone like him, the attack and subsequent taunts are an act of war. He sets up a series of stealth monitoring posts and creates his own software to track the hacker. He waits in silence until the alarm is triggered. He traces the intruder to a computer modem connected to a cellular telephone somewhere on the East Coast. A man steps out onto his balcony in Raleigh, North Carolina, and suddenly, a chill passes down his spine. The FBI agents take their positions outside the house. They see their target sitting inside. Journalist John Markoff watches from the street. The agents burst in and draw their weapons, but find nothing. The man furiously denies that he's Kevin Mitnick. He's so convincing, the FBI agents are about to leave. But then, an agent notices an old ski jacket in the cupboard. He empties the pockets, and out falls a pay stub. Legacy Media pitches up their circus tents outside.
Most wanted computer hacker is behind bars.
Kevin shares one large holding cell with 60 other inmates. He doesn't eat for 2 days because the food isn't kosher. Inside, all eyes are fixed on the defendant. Kevin is charged with 14 counts of wire fraud, 8 counts of possession of unauthorized access devices, interception of wire or electronic communications, and causing damage to a computer. When Kevin is led away from the court, Tsutomu calls out from the front row. Kevin looks back at his nemesis, the one man who finally saw through the lies and deceptions to find him. He nods, says nothing, and walks away. His appeals for bail are churned down by every single court in the U.S., including the Supreme. Kevin says the beefed-up charges are an injustice, and his treatment is a denial of his constitutional rights. But why won't anyone believe him? He has one last idea. But then, a group of officers storm into the cell and throw him into solitary confinement.
It might change a lot of things in a negative way. I mean, he's trying so hard to get it, to at least get a trial, and then this comes up.
Christmas Day passes without incident. The hack on Yahoo was a hoax carried out by members of the Free Kevin movement. There was no logic bomb. After 4 years of prison and solitary confinement, Kevin pleads guilty to 4 counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of computer fraud, and 1 count of illegally intercepting a wire communication.
I didn't think of the consequences when I was engaging in this behavior. I just did it. I'd copy the code, store it on a computer, and go right on to the next without even reading the code.
Interesting.
You know, and that's a complete different motivation of somebody who's really out for financial gain or a foreign country or a competitor trying to obtain, information like economic espionage, for instance.
You know, I hate to suggest a waste of your talent, but as I listen to you, I think you'd make a great lawyer.
Well, I don't know if you're convicted of a felony if they'd allow you to be admitted to the bar.
Kevin Mitnick is released from prison after nearly 5 years. When Kevin was on his crime spree, his hacking exploits seemed like mythology to the outside world. But by the time the sun hits his face, the world needs his skills. So, soon after his release, he testifies before the Senate and advises on how to better protect computer systems from attacks.
so I really like sleep, and the thing that I do like about sleep is that it's an alternate reality. Nothing is impossible in sleep.
Allow me to take a little bit of history.
A young farmer is preparing to start the day's work. He hears something over the horizon. What starts as a cloud of dirt and silhouettes grows into an entourage of more than 1,000 emus. They're heading towards the coast for breeding season, and no man, woman, or beast will get in their way. Within minutes, the farm is overtaken by the flightless birds. They begin consuming and spoiling the crops, tearing down fences, laying claim to the land. The stock market crashes. Millions of investors are wiped off the face of Wall Street. Jobs are lost. Industrial output all but ceases. Side by side with countries throughout the world, Australia is knee-deep in the Great Depression.
Oh, it's in a flying saucer.
In the Campion district, in the western side of the country, discharged veterans of World War I are given a gleam of hope. The government offers them financial aid. All they have to do? Increase their wheat crops. The hustle begins. Darkness, then light. Oxygen fills its lungs for the first time. Large eyes stare back at him. He is the firstborn. Another emerges from the protection of the egg, this one striped. Yet another, and another. His brothers and sisters look nothing like him, yet all of them feel familiar. He barely knows how to walk. His father shows the way forward.
You are watching Disrupt TV.
Multiple farmers in the area are reporting similar emu incidents. A few of the youngest men are sent to Tenterden, where the Minister of Defense, Sir George Pierce, also has a farm. They relay their concerns, and a plan is constructed. The farmers would provide ammunition payments, food, and accommodation in exchange for military personnel sent by the Australian government. Each would be equipped with military-grade machine guns, ready to eradicate the targets. The first strike is primed to begin the last.
Okay, this may sound dumb, but like, I understand the point to this, but like, proclaiming war on animal species really Australian. Of course, I'm only joking, you know. I love my Australian viewers just as much as anyone else.
Last week of October, under the command of Major G.P.W. Meredith of the 7th Heavy Battery. 2 additional commanding soldiers arrive at the remote town. They set up 2 Lewis guns and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. They wait. Rain strikes. The emus scatter to a wider area, and the troops wait for the weather to clear. Robert Weber is returning home from a vacation with his dog at the Kilkivan Hotel in Queensland, Australia. He's heard of a shortcut to reach his hometown of Narangba. After a few minutes of driving on the main road, he takes a right-hand turn, past the signpost. He's been driving for about 3 hours now, with no sign of life. It begins raining heavily. Then, his car gets stuck. Tries pushing, then revving, then pushing. Eventually, it breaks down. He has about 3 days of water. In the hopes someone may drive by, he remains in his car.
In the southeast, where it will be breezier. After a chilly start, it will be mostly dry on Thursday.
Him and his dog abandon the car and follow the road. Then, the road ends. Hoping civilization is near, he ventures on, further, into the bush. A group of locals are sent to loop around the backside of the emus, with the goal of hurting them in range of the ballistics. The targets break off into smaller groups and run. Nevertheless, a few are taken down. Major Meredith establishes an ambush near the local dam.
Also, as information heavy as this one is, I recommend you go see Salmonella's video on the Great Emu War, because as information filled as this one is, that one is funny. Okay, back to the video.
24 hours earlier, 1,000 emus were spotted heading towards this position. Gunners are strategically positioned for close proximity. Within moments, the emus are sweeping across the area. The finger is on the trigger. 12 shots ring out. Then, the gun jams. Major Meredith makes the decision to move further south. He's been given
This is why Australia should have used rocket launch.
intel from scouts that each pack of emus seem to have their own leader now. One of these leaders is dubbed Big Black, standing at nearly 6 feet high. He keeps watch while the others graze, lets out a warning cry when he spots the soldiers. Orders are given to attach a machine gun on top of a truck, an attempt to speed up the otherwise wasted time spent waiting for the emu's navigation patterns. Their efforts are unsuccessful. The terrain is too bumpy to get a clear shot, and even at the speed of a 6-cylinder four-wheeler, the emus outpace. By November 8th, 6 days after the first engagement, 2,500 rounds have been fired across every station set up by the Major. Total birds killed. Negative press begins circulating. He withdraws from the territory. James Mitchell, the Premier of Western Australia, raises concerns about the emu presence. He states they are a serious agricultural threat in providing food for the rest of the country. He proposes more military intervention. His plea is approved. More soldiers and more guns arrive at the small town. They set up position where the emus have been known to gather. Over the first 2 days, on day 3, this trend continues into the latter half of November. The soldiers grow more familiar with the movement patterns of the emus, and by December 2nd, averaging 10 rounds per confirmed kill. Eventually, the season of bloodshed ends. The emus return back to the inlands, and what remains is the survival of man and the survival of bird.
Is this? What the fuck is this?
Robert traverses an embankment of boulders. Then, his foot slips. He survives the fall with just a few scratches, but all of his supplies are scattered. What he has left is a knife. The terrain grows deeper, and in the search for water, his only companion, his dog, becomes separated. Robert finds a dam with mushrooms. He sets up camp. As he sleeps, ants attack his body. He moves his spot. Again, ants attack his body. Miles away, farmers are herding their animals when a pair of them come across an abandoned car on a dirt road. The police are notified, and the state emergency services begin their search. Helicopters and ground crews survey hundreds of miles, encapsulating their area of interest. Robert hears something. He gets up and attempts to wave down the rescue vehicle. But he's just on the boundary of their search. The color of his clothes blend into the terrain, and just like that, the little hope he had slips. Andy is commuting to work on the morning train. It's busy today as it is any other day. As he walks into the cab, he's knocked off center by the crowd inside. He takes a step back to balance himself, and immediately, his leg slips in between the platform and the train. There's 30 seconds left before the train departs, and now, passengers immediately take notice and call for the train operator not to move the cab. He tries lifting up his leg, but his kneecap can't get through the yellow plastic barrier. A lady suggests. Another says. The Transperth transportation cards guide passengers to try and push the train to widen the gap. Altogether, some 30 commuters push in unison on the side of cab 592. Andy's uninjured leg is freed. Ongoers clap, take pictures for social, then board the train and continue their day.
That experience must have been just like, oh my god, dude, I couldn't imagine. Dude, I would have been just scared for my life, honestly.
Robert is in a pit of depression. Hours pass, more mushrooms, more water, more mushrooms, more water. Then, he snaps himself out of it. No depression. Keep the hope, he thinks. The thought of his 2 sons keep him going. After nearly 2 weeks of non-stop searching, the Queensland police call off their efforts. It's early morning in the bush. Again, Robert hears something. Not a helicopter this time. Tony Perrette, owner of the land that housed the rescue efforts, continues his search, hoping to strike gold. And just like that, Tony spots Robert.
In a way, it was serene because I could hardly believe it. It was one of the greatest moments in my life.
Positive thinking won't let you do anything, but it will let you do everything.
Cold shower a day keeps the doctor away.
I think certainly being focused on something that you're confident will have high value to someone else, and then just work like hell.
If an art piece would be worked for an infinite amount of time, replacing the artist each time they die and replacing them with a new one, what will...
Is this reality? Is this reality? One of them is real, the other was made on a computer. So take a warm cup of water, or a bottle, right? When I touch it, and the water inside is hot, my fingers send signals to my brain, which tells me that the thing is hot. It's likely these two concepts of visual brain, which tells me that the thing is hot. Combining these two concepts of visualization and sense perception, it's likely that one day we will enter experiences that mirror our own reality, so much so that the virtual experience is indistinguishable from the physical experience. Like you'll enter a cold sort of landscape and you'll feel the coldness. Or maybe you're watching this in the future and we already have experiences like that. What I'm trying to wrap my head around in the present reality of 2020, it's November 23rd, 2020 right now, is what psychological effect this may have on our human minds. Like, technology today can be a great source of development. As an example, we've essentially democratized the need for paying thousands of dollars for an education. If an individual is motivated enough, they can teach themselves skills to become useful in the world for a fraction of the cost and energy it has taken in the past, obviously depending on what line of work you're going into. But the other side of the coin here is that the generation that is experiencing this revolution in the democratization of information is, we're seeing a decrease in mental health, right? Many millennials and Gen Z specifically have record numbers of depression and anxiety. I think this may be due to information overload.
You are watching Disrupt.
It's so easy to get lost consuming content, scrolling endlessly when algorithms are tailor-made to pique our interests. Whereas before, dramas would play out between young kids in school and pretty much end once the school was left, now it follows them home. It follows home and takes the form of applications and comments on social media. It's not like these issues didn't exist before, right? But our newfound connection to this collective brain that is the internet has, I think, brought them to the surface further. So how much more may this illness be propagated when before media was confined to a screen? Now the media is creating another reality, an unreality that we actually go inside of. I think perhaps we'll develop an ability to distinguish between the two. Like perhaps it's such a new concept that today it seems grim and it looks very grim, but I think humans are resilient as a whole. I think the majority of humans will have figured out a way to find balance between the sensory overload of a new technology such as a highly immersive virtual reality can provide, and the balance of that with the calming effects of reality. Right now, I think, personally, I find that balance through like unplugging, nature, meditation, reading, etc. I think what really may be the issue when differentiating between reality and this new unreality is if bad actors that want to create narratives about the true reality begin spreading falsehoods in that unreality. Like, as an example, today, the social media giants, the big tech and legacy media essentially justify censorship by taking the route of, by letting false information spread, it can be detrimental to society. What we deem as detrimental information should not be viewed by anyone. So they take to censoring those that oppose or say something is false if they deem it to be false. I would argue this is the wrong approach. I think it's best to let truth overtake falsehoods if the falsehood is indeed a falsehood. That's the thing about our reality and communication and language between individuals. If something is a lie, even if it takes years and years for it to be proven a lie, it always comes to light. What's done in the dark always comes to light. So it's like we don't force down the town fool that's babbling. No, we just let them talk, because they're going to talk themselves into circles. They're going to show themselves to be fools if they're continuing to talk. So if Square disagrees with Triangle because Triangle is saying something that Square doesn't like, even if Square thinks Triangle's ideas are dangerous, you should let him speak, because odds are if Square censors Triangle, all of the shapes that are following Triangle will only be reinforced by the actions of Square. If rather Square simply lets Triangle speak, Triangle will eventually be proven to be wrong, or perhaps right, based on how things play out. Now obviously this would not apply if Triangle was saying something like,
"Let's destroy the unalienable rights of an individual."
What makes a free society great is the opportunity for individuals to exercise freedom of speech, freedom of action, even if other individuals disagree or feel uncomfortable by it. Now, taking this back into the concept of virtual reality, how much more will this censorship or attempt to rewrite reality occur when things are no longer through a flat interface?
I thought that was fucking legit, man. I thought that was fucking legit, man. Oh my god.
But through a digital reality. I think at the end of the day, there will always sort of be certain companies, governments, authoritarian or totalitarianism, ideologies essentially, that attempt to control narratives and abolish the individual. What gives me hope, though, is that perhaps the antidote to this can be found in technologies such as the blockchain, where before information such as news or even simple words were distributed through one funnel like media sites, now information is spread across a network and verified by each node on that network. That's a very simple overview of blockchain, and it's not without its flaws. The idea of a system like this can be overruled if, say, a bad Now, information is spread across a network and verified by each node on that network. That's a very simple overview of blockchain, and it's not without its flaws. The idea of a system like this can be overruled if, say, a bad actor has 51% of control in the blockchain, like more control than half of it. But another optimistic viewpoint could be that where before there was only one place to get information, only one site, only one news source, now we're seeing that democratized. Like if social reality number A has proven to censor new ideas, there's always social reality number B, C, F, or G. But now we're back to reality. How do I know that I'm in reality? How do I know that what I'm experiencing here is not just another fake social reality that my brain is plugged into, constructed by a
This is some serious things you have to actually think about. Like, this is borderline conspiracy. Not quite there. It's almost there, just not quite, because this ain't Alex Jones, the Fox and Cave. This is serious things.
bad actor, tricking me into thinking this is true reality. Obviously, the question is sort of tongue-in-cheek today. It's a joke. But in the future, it may actually be a legitimate thought. It may be that these experiences get so immersive that it's easy to lose ourselves or our grounding when the line is blurred. I think we can look to the movie Inception for the answer. In the film, the characters enter dream worlds, and each of them has a sort of token that only they know of. Something that only exists in the mind of the individual, not in the mind of the dreamer that they're entering. In a VR world, if you have a token that only you know exists in the physical world, it could perhaps be that sort of link, that grounding, that makes it impossible for the developer. Of a false reality to implant within the construct of the digital reality. Perhaps for those that may struggle with this issue in the future, that is where the line can be refound, the line between reality and unreality. Even if it's blurred, having a token such as the one in my hand will be key to finding reality again. Do you want to know what's in my hand?
Yes.
My token. Here you go.
Disrupt.
Evening disrupt. If the simulation was hypothetically any infinite loop of simulations, by the time something got to a certain technological level inside a simulation with an infinite amount of computational power, wouldn't the people who made the first simulation know that and shut off the simulations, leaving everything inside the simulations to just fall into oblivion?
So the idea is that if we could make a simulation in this life that is a mirror of this reality, it could be possible that there would be beings within that simulation that would also create another simulation, creating a loop, right? But then someone brought up the point of perhaps the loop then would be just a increasingly lower definition simulation because it's a remake of the reality that the beings are experiencing.
That's actually, it actually makes some sense.
Which is an interesting train of thought. If that's the case, then it sort of brings the infinite computer or need for infinite computer power problem off the table. If we're talking about beings in the beginning that were the ones to originally start it, I would just relate it back to, like, if I have an ant farm, I'm not going to destroy it just for the sake of destroying it. Right? I don't know, that's an interesting one.